I don't
Does he
believe
know?
it's, Andy, it's not on the petition. There's just,
No, but I got the impression he wanted to remove his name.
no, he wants to add the name is what he said.
But he said he had no problem. Am I correct, sir?
Doug, what's your question? He has no,
Sir, do you want your name removed from the document, or do you want it added?
Well, the thing is with us, a few days ago, this is the first time it's been dropped on our lap, anything about this, that we're to come down here and attend this meeting, and so we haven't got 100% knowledge of what is actually going on with this,
Did you
with
attend,
this meeting.
did you attend the on-site meeting with Mr.?
This is the first, we're new in the area, property owners, and this was just dropped on our lap.
Okay, you are assessed under it. Are you aware of that?
Yes, yes.
So do you want your name removed, or do you want to put your name on the petition? I'm not clear why he's asking the question.
Exactly.
What?
well, Councillor Brenton, what I heard was that this gentleman would like to add his name to the petition, correct?
Just 1 minute.
You go ahead.
No, I know. No, I know.
Is he on
I
there?
know. No.
Unfortunately, I didn't foresee this happening, so I have the forms to remove names. I just didn't bring one to add.
Is he,
I can't clone you.
Council, what I would suggest we do here is just defer this for 15 minutes and move on. Lee would like to explain to this gentleman the situation.
Maybe we move on to a planning report.
Okay? Okay with you? I think that may be best, so he understands clearly before he puts his name on something maybe that he doesn't want to after.
If you go to item D.
I'm going to go to a planning application and just skip over a couple of drainage applications. Let's go to page 187, and we'll come back to this when Lee is finished. This is staff report DCS 17-92, found on page 187, please. An application has been received to amend the Norfolk County Official Plan and Norfolk County Zoning Bylaw to increase the urban area of Delhi, including redesignating and zoning the subject lands from agriculture to industrial business park and agriculture zone to general industrial, and to add a special provision to the subject lands to permit an agricultural parcel to be 36 hectares where 40 hectares is required. 1033-097 Ontario Inc. and agent IBI Group has put forth this application. It affects the lands described as 91 and 133 Delhi, Highway 59 in Delhi. I now open the public meeting on staff report 1792. I see Matt Vaughn is here. Are you ready for your report? Thank you, sir. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. The subject lands are approximately 10 acres in size and are located on the north side of Delhi, just north of the Delhi Industrial Park. The lands are currently outside of the Delhi urban area. The image before you there shows its location. This proposal was brought before planning staff early in 2017, and at that time we were in the process of going through our official plan review process. In essence, what this proposal would do is expand the urban boundary of Delhi, which requires a municipal comprehensive review of our bylaws and our official plan. And what we've proposed to the applicant at the time is that we review this application in conjunction with our official plan review, because it would fulfill the municipal comprehensive review aspect of what they were proposing. The applicant wished to expedite their application and so have submitted their expansion to the urban boundary and an official plan amendment, as well as a zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose behind their application is to expand the existing Scott's facility. The Scott's facility primarily deals in fertilizers at this location anyway. The subject lands would become part of their operation and would be used for outdoor storage area. And it would also be used as an area that could be sort of subject to queuing traffic, particularly the transport trucks that service this particular business. Planning staff have reviewed the policies of the PPS and our local official plan policies in regards to this application, and for the most part, this application checks off a lot of the boxes in relation to being consistent with the PPS and also being in conformity with our official plan. One of the aspects of the application, though, seeks to expand the urban area, and so we refer to particular background studies in relation to expanding urban areas, and in this particular case, we've looked at the Norfolk County Industrial Lands Policy Review. According to that policy review, we have enough industrial lands in the county to sustain us for the next 5 years. And that review goes on to say, with the exception that we can have a little bit of wiggle room for some of the existing businesses within areas, within our urban areas. Now that's the part of the PPS where this isn't completely consistent with. The PPS does not contemplate that idea of wiggle room for existing businesses. So with the exception of that, this would be consistent with the PPS and in conformity with our policies. But because of it, planning staff are looking for areas, I want to say, to trade off in other areas of the county. Planning staff brought a report before this council in late November to discuss the official plan review, and as part of that presentation to council, we were suggesting that the council consider removing some lands from the urban area in order to create a situation where we have a net zero gain within the urban area of Delhi. Until that net zero gain has been established, planning staff would have to recommend deferral of this application, although it does have a lot of good merit. We have also received some comments from adjacent landowners. I believe the paperwork is in front of you there. Some of the comments from adjacent landowners are in relation to the creation of dust from the existing business and also of the queuing of traffic along Highway 59 in this area. I believe this proposal would solve the queuing of traffic issue. So it would take the traffic that's queuing along 59 and it would house it within the confines of the subject lands. And in addition, through site plan control, we would also look at attenuation measures for dust control. And so hopefully through that process, we'd be able to solve the dust issue that exists there today. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Questions from council members to our planner? Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Through you to Matt. Mr. Vaughn, you mentioned removing existing inventory of lands to make up for this land. How would you do that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of the official plan review process, we've received comments from the province asking, or I guess requesting, that we have no net gain of lands outside of our urban areas. So what that would involve is looking at lands that are underutilized or that aren't being used for for, in this case, industrial lands, and it would be the idea of swapping that designation for those lands.
Okay, so with that, how would you swap land from one owner to another if another owner doesn't want to swap?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Height. January 16th will be the next time that the official plan review comes in front of council, and that's the public meeting where we'll be asking for adoption and approval. And at that time, there will be a number of options for council to consider. We are currently meeting with various property owners right now, some of them who don't want their land to go out of urban area, and some who don't mind. It's being farmed right now and other mechanisms, and they don't mind. So we'll provide all that information to you, but there's various options for council to consider in the Cortland area, the Delhi area, and one in Simcoe.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to staff for the report. I remember very clearly the letter that came from the ministry on our official plan where they encourage, I think their wording was, the county or council was asked to consider the idea of swapping. And to me, that's, while that's indicating a preference, it's not indicating a strong position. So I'm wondering why we could not go ahead and approve this application this evening and proceed with what staff are suggesting we'll do on January the 16th, indicating, and I suspect staff have indicated to the ministry that that is our intention, to look at the possibility of a swap, so to speak, industrial for agricultural. But I'm reluctant myself to defer this. We've got all the information. We're having the public meeting regarding this application tonight. I think everyone around the council table supports it. I'm leaning towards wanting to go ahead and approve it, Mr. Mayor, and then follow through on our commitment to look at that as part of our official plan review in January. I would appreciate a reaction from staff to that suggestion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if council wishes to make that decision, that is up to their prerogative to do so. Just based on the information that we have to work with right now, there is no, I guess, justification for us to expand the urban boundary. But if council wanted to consider that on January 16th, they could.
Other questions? Councillor Columbus?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the planners, does the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, I take it they're the people that kind of dictate this, do they not consider at all the employment opportunities and economic spin-offs with respect to an application like this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the PPS does have an entire section in and about employment opportunities. The way the policy review works is you have to review all of the policies, and it has to be consistent with all of the policies. Like I said earlier, it is very close to being consistent with all of those policies, with the exception of this one little thing.
Any other questions? Is Mike from IBI here, the IBI group? Mike, your last name is Croft? Croft. Thank you. I'll be right with you. If you want to make your way to the microphone, please. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak in support of this proposed application? And of course, we let the agent speak first in support. So I'll turn things over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Luke and members of council. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Mike Crow. I'm a senior planner with IBI Group. We are the agents for these applications. Our clients are actually Scots Canada, but as noted in the applications, they're not the owners of the lands subject to these applications. With me tonight is Mr. Brad Purdom. He's the plant manager of the Scots Delhi facility, and obviously he's here in support of our initiative for these applications. I prepared a presentation. There is some overlap with what's been discussed already, but nonetheless I would like to go through and just make my case as to why we feel like these applications should be approved. So this is a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications. These applications pertain to what I call lands known municipally as 133 Highway 59. but these lands are associated with the intended expansion of the Scots Canada operations, which is located at 1 Arnold Sayou Drive. Implementation of these amendments will assist with the expansion of the plant operations and will also address with the existing truck queuing issues, which I think are well known to those around in the council chambers this evening along Highway 59. The purpose of the applications, as discussed by staff, are really threefold. It would be to expand the urban boundary for Delhi in a specific manner, which would allow 10 hectares or 4 acres of land to be transferred from the adjacent lands to the Scots Canada facility. Within that boundary expansion, then we're proposing to redesignate those lands from the agricultural to the industrial business park designation, which of course would be the appropriate land use designation for the Scots Canada facility. It would allow site plan application to proceed in the fashion as already discussed this evening. And in conjunction with that, there'd be the rezoning application, which would take those lands from the A agricultural zone to the MG general industrial. Those are all existing designations in existing zones. So the subject lands that are under the applications are the red rectangular shaped parcel on the screen there now. It's approximately 40 hectares in size at the moment with over 200 meters of frontage on Highway 59. What we're talking about is this 10-acre, 4-hectare red square that you see on the screen there. That's the proposed expansion lands that we wish to redesignate, bring into the urban boundary, and transfer from that property to the Scots Canada facility. The Scots Canada facility is highlighted with the blue boundary and the red shading, and that's an existing current air photo showing essentially the existing layout. This is the excerpt of the OPA mapping, so just to drive home that it's really the if you were the expansion of the brown color, the industrial park designation, onto this additional piece of land, which would then form an integral part of the Scots operations. And this would be in effect, the zoning change that we're seeking, which will pertain only to that portion under discussion. This is a very high-level conceptual plan. There's a lot on there hard to read. Essentially, what we're trying to show here is we would accommodate the additional land would be factored into the existing site operations to accommodate essentially site storage for pallets and skids for the packaged material you'll see on the site right now. One of the key initiatives of the expansion is also to address the truck traffic on Highway 59. We did a traffic impact study with our application that's part of the package before council. And one of the recommendations of that traffic study was we should look to accommodate approximately, queuing for approximately 21 transport truck trailers. And so our plan is really showing a conceptual way where we could utilize the existing access points to configure a U-shaped transport truck access point through the acquired lands. And we've sized that appropriately to accommodate those 21 parking spaces. So we can obviously accommodate the expansion facility of the facility to allow the storage of material, but certainly we can address the truck traffic and provide that needed storage as recommended by the traffic impact study. And certainly this is conceptual. We could lay this out in different ways, but this is just to give in your mind's eye a way that the site could be developed. So just in summary, we are seeking approval of the applications. We recognize staff's position. I think a way to characterize it is we're about 95% there. This is going to tick a lot of the boxes. We've submitted our application and our justification. We believe that this does comply with the PPS. We stand by that recommendation. Our planning justification report certainly speaks to that. And so a decision by council to approve the applications would be consistent with the PPS, would conform to and implement the Norfolk County official plan. It would also be consistent with the recommendations to date made through the county's comprehensive review and official plan update, including the industrial lands review, which specifically said that this site could be addressed as a minor expansion opportunity. And certainly it would allow Scots to expand their operations and would assist with those truck travel and queuing patterns, which we've highlighted. And that's the end of my presentation, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Any questions for this gentleman from council? Thank you again, Mike. Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything further from council? I will need a motion to close the public meeting. Councillor Wells has moved. Geisens has seconded. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Gentlemen, what's your Your wishes here. Councillor Columbus, please. No, I gotta have a seconder before I'll let you speak. You know that, you're testing me. It's been moved by Councillor Columbus and seconded by Councillor Geisens that the application, Ken Pearson of 129 Highway 59 in Delhi, affects the lots, part lots 43, 44, and 45, concession 1N TR. This is the geographic township of Middleton, Norfolk County. This is to amend Norfolk County official plan and Norfolk County zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file number is there, that it be approved for reasons set out in report DCS 1792, and that no public input has been received for this application and therefore will not be considered as part of this decision discussion. Councillor Columbus, thank you.
Public input, so I guess that will have to be noted and removed from the motion. Is
That's
that
the
right,
written.
Mr. Clerk?
That's the written information. Will do.
And Mr. Mayor, you and I both know that this has been in the works for quite some time. Scots Canada has been waiting for this. They do employ, I remember when they came to Delhi, they said they'd employ about 12 to 18 people. I know they employ considerably more than that to date, and they ship their product all the way across Canada, hundreds and hundreds of truckloads in the springtime, and I think this is the right move. It's unfortunate that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, I think they're the ones encouraging our staff to defer this, and I think it's time that we move on. Hopefully they will be reasonable and realistic with respect to our requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments to the motion? Hearing none. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Council, if you go back to page 131 to the South Middleton Drain. Lee, could you give us your findings with your discussion, please?
Through the Mayor to Council, I believe that it will be up to the Speaker to advise completely, but my understanding is he does not wish to have his name added to the petition.
Does not.
Does not wish to have his name added to the petition, and he has nodded his agreement that he does not wish to have his name added to the petition.
Thank you. I will finish with the procedure to get on with this. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to add or remove their name from this petition? Anything further from this council? I need a motion to close this public meeting. Height, Oliver, moved, seconded. Those in favor? Public meeting is closed. I take direction from you guys. Councillor Brunton.
The recommendations in the report.
Thank you, sir. Need a seconder. Geisens. Brunton has moved. Geisens has seconded. The staff report, PW 1795. South Middleton Drain Report for consideration by council be received as information, and that a provisional bylaw be prepared to adopt the South Middleton Drain Report dated November the 1st, 2017, prepared by John Spreet Engineering. And further, that staff be directed to send a copy of the provisional bylaw and a notice of quarter revision to all required property owners, and further, that the first sitting of the quarter revision be scheduled in accordance with the provisions of the Drainage Act, and further that upon successful completion of the required appeal process, the Senior Drainage Superintendent act on behalf of council to continue with the Drainage Act procedures for the construction of the proposed drainage works in accordance with the Norfolk County Purchasing Policy discussion. Those in favor? It's carried. I now go to our next report, staff report PW 17-96. I'm on page 155. This is Venator Drain Report for consideration by this council. I now will open the public meeting for staff. On staff report PW 17-96. Lee, again, if you're ready, we'll take your report on the Venator Drain.
Through the mayor to council, before you this evening is the Van Natter Drain Report. This petition has been signed by both Norfolk County and a landowner. The landowner had requested that the existing drain be extended. They also further requested that controls be implemented for the water levels in the downstream irrigation pond, as well as having the drain relocated away from an existing dwelling unit. Norfolk County is in need of a drainage outlet for our road drainage from Norfolk County Road 45, and the report has been prepared and presented, recommending that work take place, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff on this report? Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Through you to Public Works. So if I understand this correctly, the person who initiated this was Capel?
That's my understanding, yes.
And when was the last time we spoke with him?
Myself, I have not spoken with him, but my staff would have advised them of the report per the statutory requirements. I don't know when the last time they actually sat down and met with the property owner is, but we're following the proper procedures under respect to the Drainage Act. We have not been advised that he's requested to have his name removed from the petition.
It would be hard to advise him. It's not alive.
Unfortunately, under the Drainage Act, it actually goes with the property, so it's whoever owns the property currently is bound by the signature of the previous owners.
So
the signature under it, we would have advised the current property owner of that, because that's how the Drainage Act works. It's not done by a person, it's done by the owner of the property, and if a previous property owner signed it, they're still obligated to do that.
Right, I guess I'm just a bit concerned after the previous one that maybe his widow doesn't know or didn't receive notice or just can't quite deal with it. I'm wondering if we actually sent somebody there.
We would not have sent a single person to the property. We would have notified them through the requirements of the Drainage Act. If you'd like it deferred and directing staff to go and actually speak with them, we can certainly do that. That's not normal procedure, nor is it required, but we can certainly do that if council would like to defer it and have us sent there to discuss it.
Okay, but his name is the only one on the petition right now, correct?
As well as the road authority?
Pardon me?
As well as the road authority.
Okay. So I guess we'll wait and see if she shows up or not, Mr. Mayor, and other than that.
I will wait till that moment and then get back to you. Okay. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak to the design aspects of the drain or the engineer report? Yes, please come forward. Thank you. State your name for the record, please, and thank you. Eva.
Eva Christoph.
Thank you, Eva Christoph.
And I live at the corner of 4th Concession Road, ENR, and 45, County Road 45. And my family's farm is listed as one of the main payers of this Van Natter drain. I went in attendance to a previous meeting at the Norfolk County, or in Langton. And basically what they told us was the petitioner, Mr. Capel, he thought he never had a problem. He just said, what if my basement floods? So he signed the petition to have actually the drain redesigned and so forth. Now, the problem I have, I'm totally against it. I'm actually totally against the drainage system that I have on my farm. It's because we have such an issue with water on our farm. We don't have any water in the summertime. All of it is being drained away from our farm. We have 2 wells, and most of the time we have to be so concerned about it, especially if there's a drought. This past year, there was such a drought here. Even though the rest of the province had a lot of water, we still had a drought here. I planted 1,000 head of cabbage. All of it dried up. I couldn't water it. There was no water there. I have a big issue with this. I have patches of land that are turning into desert. And I figure in the next 10 years, if this trend continues, I'm not going to be able to farm my land anymore because all the water is being drained away from my property. So I'm asked to pay about $2,400, or my family is, to be able to do this for somebody who built their house in an area, they already had a house there before. If they had a problem with water in their basement, they would have known it, so why not build the house a little bit higher? I don't know, I don't understand why they didn't do that. But as far as it concerns me, I don't know why I have to pay for this, considering that I have a lot of problems with water on my property, that I don't have enough of it in the summertime. Definitely, I can't even take showers on a regular basis. I have to be so concerned about it, and that's a big issue for me.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for this, for Eva? Councilor Brown? Eva?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Eva, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Christoph.
Okay, I see your name on the list there now. And that's your parents' farm?
It's actually my brother's farm, but I live there.
Okay.
He's
And,
right here.
Okay, I see your name on there. And did you attend the site meeting with Mr. Spree?
No, we didn't, because nobody informed us of it.
They didn't?
No, we never were informed of it, the site meeting for it. So the only thing we got was last year, around this time, I believe, or February, actually, it was probably early February, we received a notice that, from Langton, that this issue was going to be brought to the council. And so we attended that, and nothing was said of that. Mr. Capel didn't attend because he was ill. And I realized that, so it was hard for him to come. But basically what was said was the fact that he had some concerns. He never had those issues of flooding in his basement, but he had some concerns for it. And I told him, well, I find that difficult to believe because he already had a house there before. He leveled it and built another house there.
Okay, I guess my question then you've never spoken with anybody?
No, because
regarding-
only the notice is in what we get in the mail. And that's it. I've only gotten the notice in February and then this notice. And that's all. Nobody's ever asked me to attend any site, inspection or anything like that.
It's your brother?
Yeah, my brother, yeah.
Did he receive any notice?
No, nothing. No, this was it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Eva. Can you tell me, does the drain, the open ditch portion, if there is an open ditch portion, travels across your property?
It travels alongside our property. And in the
Is it right
front,
on the property line?
it's
or
right
just-
on the property line, yeah.
The-
All the way along the property
The only
line.
reason I was asking that question, and I'm sympathetic to your problem of having insufficient water during the summer when you could use it
Right.
to irrigate your crops. And I'm just wondering if there's any potential, and I saw nothing in here about this, but we're trying to promote more the idea of putting controls on the drains so that water can be held at a time when there's lots and then really slowly at a time when there's not enough. We call them wetland drains. And we have a number of them in the county that have been developed. This isn't one, I don't think, and I'm wondering from your perspective, would that be something that would be beneficial or feasible possibly to assist you with your water shortages?
To be perfectly honest, I think I can handle it myself. I've been farming since I was a kid, 5 years old. I used to work with my parents in a greenhouse, so I'm not a new person to this whole idea. But in order for me to control all my water issues, I can handle it myself. To be perfectly honest, if that drain was abandoned, I'd be happier. It doesn't benefit me at all. There's no benefit, none whatsoever. Perhaps maybe to the people across the street, I can't speak for them. Maybe they find a benefit, but I do know of one family that did run out of water this summertime too, and even though they're in a more swampy area. So it really is draining most of our water away from us, and perhaps it's draining it towards Mr. Capel, but it's not doing us it's not a benefit for us whatsoever.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Eva.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak to the design or the engineering of this drain? Yes, sir.
Good day, everybody. I'm not used to this stuff, but I got to back up Eva. I live across the road from her.
Your name?
I'm on 8-9, Glenn Haskett.
Glenn Haskett?
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. Go ahead.
This summer particularly, my bush has always been, I got 8 acres there. It's always been wet, but this summer's been dry, which has been nice. But that, the complainer of flooding or whatever is at the lowest point of our wetland. I'm at the highest. Actually, there's a few higher than me that have had basement problems. The one, the very highest, is about 2 feet of water would get in his basement. And the fellow to the west of me, right beside me, there was a new house, there was an old house moved in there a few years ago, and they put a foundation in, 2 feet too deep. As soon as I seen it, it was too deep. Well, the fellow that's in it now, he raised his floor up 2 feet and raised the basement up 2 feet to eliminate his problem. Now, Donnie Swick, he was on the east side of me. When he built his new house, he built it up, the land, with his basement, no problem, because he's in wetland. Now, the person that's complaining now is on the very bottom, and they're almost in the pond. They tore down the old house, and they built a house with a basement. Not very smart. They could have brought all the fill in and built the land up like Donnie Swick did, and they'd have no trouble. Now they expect all of us living higher of them, as the bylaws say we're supposed to be responsible, which isn't right. The house should not have been built with a basement unless it was raised properly, and the building inspector should never have approved it in the second place for building it, I feel. That's about all I got to say about it. The real problem is not the drain works perfectly, but the house was the problem. It was put there after the drain was already there functioning properly. So the house is the problem. They should take care of their own problem, is my feeling on it. If I'd have made that mistake, I'd take care of it myself.
This gentleman?
Any questions?
Apparently not. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak to the design aspect or the engineer's report? That question was for the public. I'll get right to you. Is there anyone in attendance then that would like to add or remove their name from the petition? Hearing none, Mr. Brunton, go ahead. Councilor Brunton?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I guess if I may ask Lee another question. I see the drain was initiated originally in 1988, so this is an extension. When was this drain initiated? Do you know the date?
This report that's before you this evening is from, it was October of 2011.
Wow. I know you've had trouble getting these completed, but I do have a little bit of sympathy here, being the fact that Mr. what's his name, Les Chappelle, is no longer with us, and that these people never, or at least the two of them have indicated they never attended a site meeting. I'm just wondering if we could, and 2011 is a long time ago in my book, I'm wondering if we could defer it and have these people readdressed on what's going on here, what their rights are in terms of removing their name if they want, things like that. It seems like an awful long time, and I know you've had problems, but I wonder if it would be in order, and I'd like to make a motion to that effect, Your Worship, to defer it till staff have a chance to reconvene with some of these people and maybe clarify a few things. It's 2011. That's a long time ago. Thank you.
Well, I cannot entertain your motion just yet because we have to close the public meeting, and then certainly I'll entertain. Motion, did you wish to speak on the same topic? You're okay at the moment? You go ahead. This is for questions. Anything further from council? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a question here. On page 162, it says the existing road culvert under Regional Road 45 is in poor condition and in need of replacement. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Public Works, do you require this drainage petition to go forward before you fix that culvert?
Through the mayor to council, no, we do not.
And would that be absorbed in your budget, or is that something that would have to come through this drainage application?
Through the mayor to council, I'm struggling a little to answer your question, so just bear with me. We would undertake, if the drainage culvert needs to be done, we would undertake that as a matter of road maintenance because that's something that we have to ensure. Under the Drainage Act, we pay for 100, Norfolk County is assessed 100% of those costs. So we would do that and the money would be deducted from the drainage portion of the budget, not from the roads portion of the budget, because it's actually works being done on a municipal drain.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure if it's deferred that this still gets fixed.
This will still be
Councillor
fixed.
Black. Whoop, I'm sorry. Councillor Black, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just through you to Lee, just wondering, is there an opportunity to have another look at this and design it so it works for everybody and not just one person?
Through the mayor to council, I'm not comfortable commenting on another professional engineer's detailed design without doing a professional review. And under Professional Engineers Act, I need to advise them that I'm going to be undertaking said review, et cetera. So I'd prefer not to answer that. It can certainly be deferred and referred back to staff for further discussions with the property owners if that's council's desire.
Well, that sounds like the avenue that we should be taking.
Any further from council? Councillor Oliver?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with that. One other thing, and I'm sure the ward councillor has the report, I see that he does. It would be of interest to me if we could be given a copy of the aerial photography that would show the various property owners along the length of the drain, if that exists. It's okay. If that exists, I'd appreciate having a look at that mapping, because I'm curious as to where the previous speaker's property is in relation to the ones downstream. So.
I can tell you that information, but we can also make that available. I don't know, Chris, can you get the GIS up on the screen?
While Chris is doing that, is there anything else from council?
Lee, could you give me the road cross-section again, or the location?
Sure, it's Norfolk County Road 45. And it's sort of on the west side. It's the fourth concession ENR. We're just sort of left yet further to the west. Keep going. Keep going. Yep, if you zoom, yep, right up. There you go. A little bit to the north. And can you if you can turn on the drainage layer? Oh, you may not have that in that one.
I would suggest if we're going to defer this matter that we can get this information to us. No disrespect, Mr. Baird, you're doing a good job there. Anything further from council? I will need a motion to close this public meeting. Columbus has moved. Councillor Sonnenberg has seconded that we close the public meeting. Those in favor? It's carried. Mr. Brunton, or Councillor Height, whichever.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I'm going to recommend we defer this drainage report.
Thank you. I'll need a seconder before we go any further. Councillor Height, motion is for deferral. Discussion to the deferral only. Go ahead.
Just briefly, it's 2018, I think it'd be about 8 years since this was initiated for this. And, Mr. Capel is no longer with us. These people haven't had a chance, or at least they indicated they never attended a site meeting. I don't know how many other people, and I'm on 172 just going down the list here. I don't know how many other ones may not be with us today. So I think it's in order to, and I'm certainly not blaming our county engineer for this problem. I know she said she's had problems in the past getting somebody to do these drains. So I think it's fair to the owners that are going to be assessed that we put it back to maybe just a meeting with the engineer to explain what's happening. Thank you.
Moved by Brunton, seconded by Height, that the report PW 1796 be deferred for a period that will allow staff to provide further information to those assessed on the Venator drain. Anything else? Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I just have one question that has to do with should this proposal not move ahead and be canceled? I would understand that the engineer would still have to get paid.
Through the mayor to council, council does not have the ability to not move a petition forward. Council can't decide that a petition is canceled.
Right, say Widow Capel removes her name from the petition?
Yes. If everybody removes the name from the petition, or the petition is no longer deemed valid based on the applications, the people who originally petitioned, which would be the county and the one particular landowner, would then be responsible for all of the costs to date.
Do you have a number on that, a price tag?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can certainly have that information before the report comes back to council.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Van Atten drain, motion for deferral. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lee, for your work on that. I now go to page 173. Yes. This is the Lambert Drain Culvert Extension, External Extension Report. For consideration by council, I now open the public meeting on staff report PW 17-97. Lee, would you give us this report? Staff, council, I'm on page 173.
Before you is the report on the Lambert Drain culvert extension. There was a petition received from a landowner asking to have a culvert extended so that they can access the other, basically drive across the municipal drain. They are the only applicant on that. The assessed is to Norfolk County as well as to the property owners. And we're recommending that it go forward, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Lee on this report, council? Councillor Columbus, please.
Well, my question is, if it's already there, they're requesting it, why would the county be assessed if it's a request by a private property owner for culvert?
Through the mayor to council, the benefit of how the Drainage Act is constructed, everybody who benefits from the drain pays, and we're assessed a portion of that section of the drain.
Okay. Taxpayers' money. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further? Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak to the design aspects of the drain or the engineer's report? Is there anyone in attendance that would like to add or remove their name from the petition? Council, anything further? I'll need a motion to close the public meeting. Brunton has moved. Black has seconded that we do close this public meeting. Those in favor? And public meeting is closed. I'm looking for direction. Councillor Geisens. Seconder. Brunton. Geisens has moved. Brunton has seconded. The staff report, PW 1797, the Lambert Drain Culvert report for consideration by council be received as information. Further, that a provisional bylaw be prepared to adopt the Lambert Drain Culvert report dated November 22nd, 2017, prepared by John Spreet, professional engineer. Further, that staff be directed to send a copy of the provisional bylaw and a notice of quarter revision to all required property owners. Further, that the first sitting of the quarter revision be scheduled in accordance with the provisions of the Drainage Act, and further, that upon successful completion of the required appeal process, the Senior Drainage Superintendent act on behalf of council to continue with the Drainage Act procedures for the construction of the proposed drain works in accordance with the Norfolk County Purchasing Policy. Discussion on the motion. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's it for the drainage applications. We've dealt with 1792. I would like to go to page 439 of your agenda, please. This is staff report DCS 1793. An application has been received to rezone the subject lands from rural commercial zone with special provision 14-78 to the agriculture zone. Jason Stadegard and Agent Thomas Klein has put forth the application. This affects the lands described as 808 Brantford Road, La Salette. I now open the public meeting on staff report 17-93. Mr. Matt Vaughn, your report. You have the floor.
Thank you. The subject lands front onto Brantford Road. Their address is 808. The lands were subject to a boundary adjustment that went to the Committee of Adjustment in August of this year. As a condition of approval, the lands are subject to a zoning bylaw amendment to remove the operation of an automobile sales establishment from the lands that are being transferred. And they're being transferred to a rural residential lot, so just the zoning is no longer required. Staff have reviewed the policy requirements and agree that the subject application is consistent with the policies of the PPFs and conforms to our official plan, and recommend approval. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Questions for Matt? I don't believe Mr. Klein is here. Is the applicant here this evening? Nor the agent. Okay. We'll proceed. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak in support of the proposed application? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to the application? Any further questions from council to staff? I would like a mover and a seconder. Wells has moved. Sonnenberg has seconded that we close the public meeting. Those in favor? Meeting is now closed. Staff recommendation is for approval. Councillor Height, move.
Move to approve.
I need a seconder. Brunton? Height and Brunton have moved and seconded that the application of Jason Stadegard, Joanne Hanson, Law Office, Main Street West in Norwich, affects the lands described as part of Lot 17, Concession 8, Geographic Township of Windham in Norfolk County. This is to amend our Norfolk County zoning bylaw 20-1Z 2014. The file number is there. It's recommended for approval for reasons as set out in report number DCS 1793, and that no public input has been received for this application and therefore will not be considered as part of the decision. Discussion on the motion. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll go to page 449, please. This relates to staff report DCS 1794. An application has been received to amend the Norfolk County official plan and the Norfolk County zoning bylaw to construct a seasonal cottage requiring relief from section 3.22.1 requirement to develop on lands with frontage on an open, constructed, and year-round improved road. The application also requests relief of 13.05% lot coverage from the maximum permitted coverage of 15% to permit a coverage of 28.05%. Paul Edward Careswell has put forth the application that affects the lands described as Lot 116, Plan 190, Geographic Township of Charlottesville. I will now open the public report, DCS 1794. Mrs. Kayla DeLay is with us. Kayla, nice to see you. Would you please present your report? Thank you.
Thank you. So this is an application for an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for a vacant lot located in Turkey Point. The lot is located between Ferris Street and Walmsley Street. And the surrounding land uses are seasonal cottages, and directly abutting this property, there is year-round zoning status. So the applicant has applied to construct a seasonal cottage and requires relief of frontage provision on an open, maintained, year-round improved street. The application also requests relief for lot coverage. So planning staff do not have concerns with the lot coverage request, as it is in keeping with the characteristic of other cottages. But we do have concerns, significant concerns, with the request which asks for relief of frontage. So basically, this does not meet the intent of our PPS and our official plan policies, but more specifically, there is not even a traveled portion in front of this property. There have been concerns raised from abutting property owners in relation to drainage, and our Public Works Division has also requested that this application be refused for that reason as well. So you can just, this image on the screen shows the proposed lot. And the following images here just show the area which would be the unopened road allowance that you see on the map. So planning staff do have concerns. This application does not represent good planning and does not provide safe access for the resident on this property. So planning staff are recommending refusal of the application.
Thank you, Mrs. DeLay. Questions from Council? Councilor Oliver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kayla, for the report. I'm not sure whether to direct this question to you or to perhaps Lee Robinson, because it's related to drainage and actually the photos on our screens now. The wet area that shows in the left side photograph is drainage coming as part of the Ferris Street drain watershed. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to council, I would expect so.
Take my word for it.
I mean, that would be the area. I don't know for sure where that particular water came from, but yes, okay. This area would be part of the Ferris Street drainage area.
Thank you so much for that. And I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Lee, but the draft Ferris Street drain report, which has been the subject of a public meeting and the subject of a neighborhood meeting, and I'm sad to say so far isn't getting a whole lot of support from cottage owners down there, and yet we were petitioned to do it in the first place, and we all know now how that happens. But the draft drainage report, and you can answer if you're familiar enough with it, shows the proposed drainage swale or shallow ditch going along the extreme north side of our Walmsley Street road allowance in that vicinity. Do you agree with me on that that's what's in the draft report?
It shows, I don't know the depth, but I would say that yes, it does show, generally speaking, it's on the north side of that right-of-way.
And actually the depth is only about 1 meter, Mr. Mayor, and at its widest would be about, I think, 3 meters wide and approximately 1 meter deep. And admittedly, that was going to be one of the issues around the suitability of that whole drainage system to function properly. It was going to have a very shallow grade and have to be a maintained swale. So where I'm leading with this question, Lee, is as part of the construction of that drain, if it ever were to happen, it's my understanding that the shallow ditch would be created, if you like, in this vicinity by filling the balance of this low wet spot in order to create a defined and maintained drainage swale on the north side of our property there. Is that sort of consistent